yes, I slow it down. Can't tell yours if you want it. Take the ride, 'cause those ups and those downs is what makes it worth it.
What is going on, you guys? Well, welcome back to the Nitty Gritty podcast. I think this is episode 6. Every episode I start off by questioning what episode we're on. I wanted to start off by talking about the crazy experience we had on Monday. So if you guys have followed me for a while, you have heard that Jacob, my husband, is somehow really freaking good at winning tickets off of the radio station. He listens to this classic radio station and he has like the timing down and everything, but they were just giving away tickets to an Eagle concert and he ended up calling and winning them. So we went to the concert on Monday. And I'm not like a huge classical rock person. It's not really my style. But this concert was a little bit more fun because obviously I knew some songs. But since it was free tickets, like we weren't expecting to get like really good seats. But with me being afraid of heights, these seats sketched me out. I have never been in a really big arena that far up. Let me paint a picture of like the stadium real quick. So you have like your floor seats. So you're actually like on the ground. Then you have like your first tier where it's coming up just a little bit. And then you have your like second tier going up. And then you have like your third tier going up, which is like the top ring around. When you're in that top ring, you are literally like up and down. Like if I'm sitting in a seat and my feet are on the ground, where my feet are, that's like the start of the next person's seat from like in front of me, like a shift down. And there's no railings, like no railings. It's just your seat and then step down, there's another seat. Step down, there's another seat. And within this like section, there's probably like 10 or 15 rows of seats. So once you're all the way through the 10 to 15 rows, then there's like your railing, but nothing's stopping you from falling from your seat to like 10 seats down. And that's the scary part. Because like I said, like if our feet are on the ground, there's no walking room. So if someone is needing to like sit in the seat next to you, or like God forbid, if you need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the concert, you have to like have everyone in your row stand up and like squeeze back as far as they can. And you have like 5 inches to like shuffle your way all the way to the end until you get to the stairs. And I mean, it's not a good mix because 1, you're in the dark, you can't really see much. 2, this is an Eagles concert, so everyone here is like retired and like 60 plus. So those are not a good combination. But anyway, moving past that, I guess this weekend we tried to go fishing at a new spot, but it ended up raining, so we couldn't. So we ended up going to this new outdoor restaurant bar area, and it was pretty cool. We had some alligator, which if you have not had alligator before, it's nothing to write home about. It, like everyone thinks, it tastes like chicken. But it's almost like, I don't want to say more rubbery texture because that sounds bad. And alligator's not bad, it's just not my favorite. It's more of like a pork texture. So you know like when you eat pork, how it's just kind of like thicker? It's not as like soft as chicken. That's kind of how it is. So it's kind of just like a tougher chicken, basically. You know, it was a cool thing to try. Otherwise, this weekend, we know that we are going to be going golfing, which, by the way, if you are the type of person that likes to go golfing, but you don't like the outrageous prices of golfing, there's an app that you can download, which I don't even remember the name. It's on my husband's phone. But it basically shows you all of the deals around your area, and you can actually find some really cheap prices to golf. So we found a good deal this weekend. That is like one thing that I'm really trying to get better at, because I sucked at golf the first time I tried, and I'm still not the best. If you follow me on Instagram and you see when we go to like Top Golf, we're basically at like a driving range hitting balls, you see my outtakes of where I don't hit it very well. But I do honestly want to get better at it. And so that's why I'm like forcing myself to continue to keep going. And I think that's really with everything. Like the first time you try something, you're not going to be very good at it, but you just have to keep up with it. And that kind of brings me to today's topic, where I want to talk about all of the different types of exercise and what are the pros, what are the cons, and what's going to be best for you to do. Because throughout my health and fitness journey, I have tried a lot of different types of exercise. I have tried CrossFit, I have tried traditional weightlifting, kickboxing, you know, a lot of things under the sun. And I kind of just want to talk about like my experience with them, if you guys would find that beneficial, and basically just how to find what works best for you. So let's start with like chronological order. So the very first mode of exercise that I started out with was home workouts. I feel like everyone starts here. This was back when I was in high school. So I just started wanting to work out, but I didn't have a gym to go to. My school was extremely small. My graduating class was like 35 people, so like we did not have a big gym to use. And so really the only resources I had was to actually work out at home. And so I would just go on YouTube and I was just like, workouts. And I just did whatever the heck popped up. And I think like the first thing was like this channel called Obliques, which I believe they're still around. I think she's actually doing like really good now. She's coming out with a lot of stuff. But essentially it was like Pilates, so you did a lot of like body weight exercises. You maybe had some like super light dumbbells. And I think it's a really good way to exercise when you are trying to get into it. Now, the downside to it is there's going to be a pretty big like wall in your progress. You're only going to be able to get so far with body weight exercises, especially when you have very like limited equipment. So it's good for like an introduction, but you're not going to see a huge amount of results with it. So I did that for a couple years, and then when it came to, I think I was like a senior in high school. Yeah, it was like a month before my birthday. I remember that because when I went to go sign up for the gym membership, you had to be 18, and if you weren't 18, you had to have a parent signature. So shout out to my mom. She came with me and she signed off on my membership. And I actually had a couple friends with me. And I forgot about this. They wanted to get gym memberships too, because we were going to like all work out together, and their parents couldn't come because they were at work. So my mom ended up acting like they were her daughters as well, and she signed off on their gym memberships too. I wonder if they still have those gym memberships. That'd be funny. But anyway, so then that is what led us into more of like the traditional weightlifting. So to kind of like rewind just a little bit, what got me into wanting to do traditional weightlifting was because when I was looking up like workouts online, I ended up coming across a lot of bodybuilder YouTubers. So like they would post their gym workouts and what they were doing. And they like sat there and they made videos about like their preps and just like got into like the whole like YouTube health space of everything, like the fitness influencers. And then that got me really interested in like that style of working out. And so I ended up working out at that gym. It was less than a year because after that I ended up graduating and then I moved to a different city and I went to college. And when I went to college, that's when I really started to experiment more in different styles of working out. That sentence could have sounded really wrong. But I wanted to try out different ways of exercising. So I was still doing like the traditional weightlifting, but I started to dabble into other things, and that's when CrossFit started to come into play. So because I ended up just transferring to a different gym, which was still like the traditional, like, box gym. But there was a guy there who owned a CrossFit gym. And we ended up becoming like decent friends. And so he would invite me to his CrossFit gym and he would let me take some free classes. And that's what really got me into that style of working out. And so I actually ended up programming like my own CrossFit workouts to do. And I really enjoy CrossFit workouts because if you have that want to like push yourself to the freaking max, you can do it with this style of training. Like you get the endurance, you get the weightlifting, you can just go like balls to the freaking walls with CrossFit. And so that's a really big pro if you enjoy that style of lifting. But a con to that is you also are going to be more prone to injuries just because, like with CrossFit, everybody wants to lift heavy, they want to go super fast. Like that is the name of the game when it comes to CrossFit. But you still need to take that time to learn the form, slow shit down, and know what you're doing before you start trying to lift so heavy and start trying to do it very fast. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong with CrossFit, and that's when they really start to get into a lot of injuries, is because they don't work on like those foundations first. Which, I mean, in the same sense, you can do the same exact thing with just traditional weightlifting. If you don't take the time to learn the form and do it right, you can still hurt yourself with traditional weightlifting because your form is shit. So like you can't knock CrossFit for that reason because really it's on you, it's not on CrossFit. You know what I mean? But another con, and really the reason why I don't do CrossFit now, is because of the body shape it builds. So like if you look at like an advanced CrossFitter, their physique looks very different from like how a bodybuilding physique looks. And just like personally for me and my goals, I don't particularly want to look like that. With CrossFitters, you're going to typically get a bigger, blockier core just because you're doing a lot more functional, heavy exercises. You're going to get bigger traps because you're doing cleans, you're doing snatches, you're going to have a little bit bigger arms. So just not, again, the physique that I desire to have. Now, if I did not care about looking a certain way, and if I would just fully commit to CrossFit, I think that that would be so much freaking fun. But I need to like reel myself back since like my goal is ultimately bodybuilding. But if that is your style and that's what you really enjoy to do, that can be a really great outlet for you because you're not just getting the weightlifting, but you get a really good cardio workout with that too. So I dabbled in that in a while, and then I ended up switching jobs. So I ended up switching gyms as well. And so I ended up going to a gym that was called Elite Edge. And they had actually like a really big variety of different types of working out. So they had more of the weightlifting workouts Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then they had more of the cardio workouts Tuesday, Thursday. So on Tuesdays, they had more of the like traditional HIIT workouts. So HIIT workouts are going to be like your high intensity interval training. So you're pushing super, super hard for a certain amount of time, and then you're resting. And then again, you're pushing super, super hard, and then you're resting. So you're kind of like having these bouts of like maximal effort followed by a little bit of a rest. So it's just like a different type of cardio. But with this HIIT training, it's similar to CrossFit, but it has more of a variety of exercises. So with like HIIT workouts, you have a little bit more of the body weight exercises with it. So like in a CrossFit workout, you typically wouldn't find jumping jacks or like skiers or like sit-outs, like the more body weight cardio movements. But in HIIT workouts at the same time, you will still find CrossFit movements. You might still have kettlebell swings. You're probably still going to have battle ropes, snatches, cleans, stuff like that. You just have more of a variety of exercises because it's not just the weightlifting movements. It's like the actual body weight cardio movements too. And so I really ended up loving that. The only downside to HIIT training is you really have a limit of how often you can do that a week. Just because with it being so high intensity, you can only do it so often because you can't recover as quick from it. So for like example, like if I'm wanting to lose weight or if I'm going through like a bodybuilding prep, I'm going to have to do a decent amount of cardio, especially towards like the end of my prep. I'm not going to be able to do all of my cardio through HIIT alone because I would have to end up doing HIIT like every single day, and that would just be way too much for my body. My body wouldn't recover from it. So that's why like in a bodybuilding prep, when you have to do so much cardio, there is going to be some amount of steady state exercise just because your body can recover from it quicker, so you can do it more often. So I can do a steady state cardio of Stairmaster 5 to 6 days a week, but I'm not going to be doing HIIT workouts 5 to 6 days a week. Like that would just destroy me. And so is that saying like you can't do HIIT workouts to lose weight? Not at all. You can definitely still incorporate HIIT workouts to lose weight. There's just a limit of how much you can do. And I mean, I guess technically another con to HIIT workouts is it's not as trackable. And what I mean by that is workouts in HIIT, there's not going to be two workouts that are the same. Every HIIT session, you're doing either different movements, you're doing different timing, different tempo. Like every HIIT workout is going to be different in some way. So it's tough to get the same exact intensity throughout every single HIIT session. Just because one HIIT session might be a little bit easier because there's easier movements in it versus another HIIT session might be very, very difficult. So from like an analytical coaching perspective, it's a little bit harder to track the amount of actual cardio you're doing just because your intensity is going to vary throughout a HIIT session. Versus if you're doing steady state, the variables are the exact same. If you're doing a 20-minute Stairmaster session at a level 7, your intensity is the same throughout the whole entire session. You can do that on Monday, you can do that on Friday, it's gonna be the exact same. Versus if you do 2 different HIIT workouts, it's going to be slightly different. So, I mean, from like a very like picky standpoint, that's another factor that you have to plan in. But all in all, it's still a really good option to do cardio, especially if you are someone who gets bored very easy. That's a good way to just change things up. So that was mainly on like Tuesdays. Then on Thursdays, we would have cardio again. But instead of like a normal HIIT workout, we would actually do kickboxing with it. So that was fun. That was completely new for me. Because keep in mind, I was a coach at this gym. So I had to teach these classes. And so I never had experience with kickboxing before, so I had to learn super quick how to punch, how to kick, like how to do things properly, and just like the little badass side of me, I loved it. And plus you kind of just feel like cool. You're like, yeah, if someone would try to mess with me, like I would totally know how to fight. But like low key, it's me. I have no anger inside of me, but doing it at the gym is like a fun way to do that. Like you get to have your little like moment, you know what I mean? You get to actually fight without having to fight. A pro to kickboxing, it's fun. You get to do something different. You get to feel like a badass while you're doing it. A downside, similar to HIIT and CrossFit, you do have a higher injury risk just because you actually are punching and you are kicking things. So I mean, even if you are very intentional with form, it is so easy to just tweak things the wrong way, and you could easily hurt your ankle, hurt your wrist, or whatever it is. So that's something you have to factor in. It is going to condition your core and your obliques a lot more too, because when you are punching and kicking, if you're doing it properly, you should be rotating and driving in with the core to give you more power behind that movement. And by doing that rotation, and you're doing it over and over and over, because within a kickboxing workout, like you're throwing a lot of punches and kicks. So that's a lot of repetitions for your core and for your oblique. So naturally, that area is going to develop more. So if you do have the goal of bodybuilding and you already have a pretty square torso, building those obliques more, it's just not going to line up. And I mean, you can kind of see with like all of these different styles of exercising, they build different muscle areas, and building different muscle areas are just going to produce a different look. So you really just have to determine like, hey, how do I want to look? Like, is that the reason why I'm exercising? Am I exercising just to be healthy and just to move around? Or am I exercising to look a certain way? And that kind of, guides you down a certain path. And kind of on that same note, that's the same thing with HIIT training. You are doing a lot of different functional exercises. So you are working the body all over, but you're not able to like specify exactly what area you're working and wanting to develop like you would with traditional weightlifting. And that's personally why I love the traditional weightlifting and like the traditional bodybuilding style, is because you can be very intentional with what you're doing and like truly craft and create your body to look a specific way. But within this gym, like I said earlier, we had the weightlifting days on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it was like a mixture of powerlifting and a mixture of like that traditional bodybuilding style weightlifting. So on those 3 weightlifting days, the very first exercise would be like a huge compound movement. So it would either be a squat, a bench, or a deadlift. So like that was our time to do like that powerlifting style of working out. So we would have it intentionally programmed. So like throughout the months, we would sit there and we would do like a 1 rep max. And then we would go to like 5 reps, 6 reps, 8, 10, 12, like work our way up, work on different techniques, and then bring it back down and test our 1 rep max again. And so that was like my little experience with powerlifting. I mean, it was fun because the programming worked. I was able to gain a lot of strength during that time. But again, you do have a little bit more risk for injury just because you are pushing yourself like to the max. Like if you are actually powerlifting, you are pushing yourself 100% because you were trying to pick up the most weight possible. And of course, just like anything else, you're trying to have good form, but when you're lifting up such heavy weight, it gets very, very tough to keep that solid form. So it's very easy to accidentally slip and, tweak something. Because I know at a point, I was getting very strong in all 3 lifts, but I was starting to have those moments where I'm like, ooh, I can kind of feel it in my back. And at that point, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's cool to say like, oh yeah, I can squat 260 pounds, but at the same time, all I can say is I can squat 260 pounds. Like I'm not getting too much more out of it. If I wanted to go for like aesthetic goals, yeah, powerlifting is going to give you some progress, like no doubt about that, because you're still weightlifting, but it's not going to give you as much progress as if you were doing like traditional weightlifting. And I mean, you could argue the point of like, yeah, you want to go for strength, you want to get stronger, but there's like a limit to where it's like, awesome, I want to get stronger, and like, is it really necessary for you to get stronger? Like if you're starting out and you can only deadlift 50 pounds, then awesome, work on building strength because that's actually going to help you in real life. But once you get to a point that you can deadlift 260 pounds, it's like, do you really need to lift more than 260 pounds? I don't know if I've ever been in a real life situation where I was like, ooh, only if I could lift 270, this would help me. Like, no. And so it just didn't serve me anymore at that point. So then that leads us all the way back to today. Because after that, I ended up leaving that gym because I moved down to Florida. And then when we moved down here, I just got another membership at a traditional gym. And I started back up with having more of a focus on bodybuilding. And that's when I started to get really serious about it. So even though throughout like the phases I was just explaining, I still was doing like traditional weightlifting off to the side. And I feel like that was always something that I just always gravitated towards because I just really enjoyed the thought that it didn't matter how your body was shaped, that you could have a program to shape it into a completely different form that you wanted. And I just love that it's in art form almost, because you are creating your own body shape. And all in all, it really comes down to what is your specific goal. The reason why I started exercising was because of a physical goal. I wanted to look a certain way. And so with that being my like main driving factor, it makes sense of why I kept pulling back to bodybuilding. And that's because my goal was a physical appearance. Bodybuilding is the best option to help me get to that goal. Versus if the reason why you started working out was because you wanted to get a lot better power and endurance, then CrossFit would be your perfect goal. So, it just comes down to like, why are you working out? What do you enjoy the most? Everyone is going to be different. There's not one solid answer. Like if you came to this video for me to tell you like, this is exactly what you should do, I'm not going to, because everyone's going to be different. Everybody has different needs. They have different goals. And you just got to figure out what works best for you. And sometimes that's just trying everything and seeing what sticks. But that is going to be everything for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is your sign to go out, try a different type of exercise this weekend. If it is pickleball, if it's CrossFit, if it's playing golf, try something new. When you do, comment down below. Let me know what you guys are going to be trying out. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye.
Listen to me as I